So we're going to go over to Stan here because he obviously got maliciousness on his mind here. And so there was a recent article, actually this was featured on 60 Minutes about hacking cars. And we thought it would be useful to talk about this topic.
Yes, actually coming off of last week where we talked about one particular manufacturer and some of the issues that they already patched, it was interesting to see that on 60 Minutes, this topic was featured again. And
now it's healthy to see, the last one, this was BMW, where they had basically announced the patching of some software.
Yes.
Now, they did that over there, right?
Yes, they applied the patch over the air, which was also another strong, another good sign for the industry, at least from their perspective. Obviously they figured out that, hey, it would be nice to be able to patch things over the air, and they had a way to do it.
Yeah.
So
hopefully that's signed, right?
Yeah.
Signed over the air up
well, the thing is, I think originally it probably wasn't. Yeah. So which was the problem? And that was last week. So in I think this report that was featured on 60 Minutes. I think they're trying to just call attention to the state of the way things are in the car industry. There's so many manufacturers out there, and each one has their own way to engineer things and their own way to engineer security. And there's not a lot of transparency about how that's done. There's a lot of data that's collected by the cars as you drive around. Some of that is stored, but as the cars become more connected, some of that gets sent to the servers of the different manufacturers so they can improve customer experience and things like that. But it's not transparent to the consumer how these features work, how to I guess maybe disable them, or by disabling them maybe they're disabling the whole car. So that's just one part of the report. And then the other part of the report is they talk about how there's a lot of components now in the car that talk wirelessly. Like one thing that's pretty wireless in your car, I think, is the TPM, the tire pressure monitor system. That uses a wireless protocol. And so all of those kinds of things, they have potential for misuse or abuse. And I think it was interesting to see in the 60 Minutes report, some of the conceptual attacks against the car. And so, you might be able to attack the brake system or open the doors remotely, stuff like that. So I know that was all featured. I think one of the important things here is that we're trying to, I guess there's some light being shed on the industry to show that, hey, there might be a problem here. Maybe there is or maybe there isn't, but maybe we need to pay more attention to it.
Well, it's healthy to scrutinize.
Yes.
That is, to be paying attention. I mean, I think that's going to move things further along. Just not to digress too far here, but one of the things that I guess I've been talking for some time now about the Internet of Insecure Things, and more recently trying to make the distinction between what I describe as managed Internet of Things as opposed to unmanaged Internet of Things, and trying to make some distinctions between the criteria, or between the two. One where these unmanaged devices, they may have no patching process, let alone automatic patching processes. And even if they do have patching processes, a lot of them are firmware updates where you have to, download a file and load it onto another, sort of helper machine and load it in there, and then you reset it, and then you cross your fingers and hope the thing actually comes back and doesn't get bricked. And it's a very inconvenient process. Whereas this is a case where we're seeing that the auto industry is getting it, or at least, we can't generalize all the manufacturers to be the same. You said they're all different, doing this potentially different things, but there are at least some that are paying attention to this and considering, that you need to be able to do firmware updates or software updates and make it transparent to users and have things really being taken care of. And I know, we've been involved in helping the auto industry with the networking aspects of services, and including the security aspects of things, and making sure that for the organizations that we're working with, that they get the good security around that to be able to facilitate doing things in an appropriate way. Not necessarily actually building the applications themselves, signing the applications, but certainly from a networking point of view.
One of the other things that we wanted to mention as part of this story was the report that Senator Markey released yesterday, I think it was. And one of the things that he highlights in that report is that while there, we've seen some things that are that are going well and are getting better, but there's, one of his complaints is lack of uniformity. The various manufacturers, some have over-the-air updates that are signed. Some you have to get, to get updates, you have to go into a shop and have a mechanic actually plug in. So it's inconsistent across the industry, and that was,
right.
One of the things that he highlighted in that report. And it's that inconsistency, I think, that is the biggest concern. Hopefully they're all getting better. Hopefully they're all taking security into account. But
well, I think those inconsistencies are things that create, that's a value proposition for the organizations that are doing a better job relative to the others, and hopefully that comes out as marketing opportunities for different manufacturers. I don't know that consistency is necessarily what we're looking for. I think at least some prudency is necessary. And as we do safety standards for a lot of things, I think we've already talked about the notion that there should be some safety standards associated with things that connect to the network. And we talked about United Laboratories as being kind of a model, perhaps as a way to set up some standards so that devices could be certified as being safety certified for connecting to a network. I think that would be perhaps a healthy proposition. So, I mean, it needs to be investigated further to make sure that there are opportunities to do that in a prudent way. But I think that notion makes a lot of sense. And if there's a safety recall in a car, you still have to take it to the manufacturer to get the part replaced. It's not as if they have over-the-air part replacement in cars. I'm being a little, facetious here, but the point is that network safety is kind of fits into a similar category. So I wouldn't necessarily fault a car manufacturer for not having over-the-air software updates. By the same token, it certainly seems like a nice convenience feature for an owner of the vehicle. So a marketing opportunity for the manufacturers.
I mean,
presumably they do it right.
yeah, that's a fair statement.
if my home router or my refrigerator, my smart refrigerator crashes, probably not a big deal. But certainly a car where not only your life, but other people on the road, there's potential for, actual lives to be lost.
Yeah, the notion of
make sure
safety
you carefully
standards
think
really,
this out.
Yeah, the notion of safety standards really do, they are real practical in the scenario of automobiles.
Right.
And so it's all the more reason there should be some, the notion of an underwriter's laboratory seal of approval for an automobile actually kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I think they could, it is underwritten by the insurance industry, and I suspect that will probably take hold in that sense. We'll have to see how it comes about. So, very good point.